What I want to speak a bit about is our transformation journey, our agile transformation journey here at Bosch Power Tools. And I'm representing here a team of global transformers, as we call them, and people and culture people that have been driving this transformation together with me. So that's, I think, a very important message at the beginning. It's not, it's really something where you need a lot of people involved to drive the change. I think to give a bit of perspective, I think, Rebecca, we move 100 tools a week, but we are at 100 tools each year. So just to make ourselves aware, we are, as Rebecca said, part of the bigger Bosch group, which has 400,000 people. We are 20,000 people. We are one of the few divisions at Bosch who are actually consumer goods products. You see some of our products on the right-hand side. So we do everything from lawnmower to drill driver to trying to measure with lasers how the rooms are set up. We are 20,000 people, half of them around working in the plants and half of them indirect workers. So if I would start to speak about the change that we are embarked on and the transformation journey, I would like to start with this picture. What you see here is, of course, the ocean. What you see here is a very famous sentence that change is the only constant, right? And I think it's really important to highlight that change is not something very new, right? It's coming every time. Sometimes the wind is coming from the right, sometimes it's coming from the left. But I think this view on the ocean is a good picture to reflect reference on what you see on the horizon, the waves that are coming. What we have seen a couple of years ago, actually two things on the horizon, and let me iterate a little bit on them. So if you see on the left-hand side, you see our external factors that we see there. Digitalization, yes, it's a buzzword. On the other hand, it's driving a lot of our change that we see in our industry, being very focused on selling to retail. In previous times, we see now much more closer user interaction, direct feedback on Amazon 5-star ratings or 1-star ratings. What do we do with them? So this direct to user contact is much more than previously. Another mega trend that we have seen 5-6 years ago already was demographic globalization changes, right? So are we really prepared for that globalization is changing the world upside down? And last but not least, the collaboration culture. What do I mean with that? I think we saw a specific need to open ourselves up for talent that previously were not having Bosch or Bosch Power Tools on their top wish list. So we really wanted to attract new talent as a clear goal for being a very attractive employer of choice. And I think we really wanted to make substantial change there. And then when looking out into the ocean and the waves coming, we really asked ourselves, are we ready for these challenges? Are we close enough to our users, right? Are we truly innovative enough? And are we fast and flexible? And with fast and flexible, it's not only about speed, it's also about being adaptive, right? Being adaptive to the change that we foresee. Now, when we said we want to change, it felt a lot for a lot of our people like this. You see a lot of surfers trying to mingle around the ocean with no visibility, no clear moving. And then we really said, okay, we need to set a certain guardrails, certain things, because the change is there, the waves are there, they are coming from left and right, but we want to change in a way that is transformation, and transformation for us was really the option. So this one sentence really sticks with me personally as well, because change is there, but transformation is optional. So do you want to be a proactive surfer, or do you want to just try to survive on the wave, right? Try to survive in the ocean. But the question here is also, yes, the guiding things were clear, but how to tackle them were not really clear. So we set up this transformation very different from any other things we have done in the past at Bosch, to really give some guardrails, but not clear instruction, not clear milestone plan, not clear work packages in order to that. So I will show you now what we gave as kind of guidance together with the teams that we created. So our kind of ultimate goal is that we transform our Power Tools business unit into a user-centric organization. And the user is here the important part, really the people who use our tools, hopefully like some of you as well, right? So the tools that you can use to make really cool stuff. And we wanted to build an organization that based on agile principles. So what that really means for us is that we want to have a very holistic picture, what we call our agile transformation, to tackle not learning Scrum or Kanban only, not trying to change the organization, not only to question leadership, but really to have a holistic approach on all of those, as we call them internally, 5 bubbles, our 5 dimensions to driving change. And I mean, you can read them from left to right, but to give you some examples, the question is, are we rightly set up for our leadership style from previous time to tackle the problems of the new times? Is our organization, and I will dig deeper a little bit into that, set up in the functional departments, right, to develop tools in a fast and adaptive way and to be ready for the challenges in this crazy world that we see sometimes? Collaboration culture, I think, is a very important element where we wanted to say, I think we are aiming for smaller teams, but really smaller teams means also collaborating better and not having internal competition, right? But perhaps it's new that you see on the bottom are these 5 words to say, we really want that these are things we are going to work on, but we don't really know how that will look like, how will that shape. For that, we need a lot of the people involved working for BOSCH Power Tools. So we really want to have a high involvement, co-create with us. We want to have transparency. So not the perfect slide deck ready to go when everything is decided, when everybody went through with the thumbs up. No, show iterative states on where we are, where we go, and give feedback and get feedback from the associates. The next thing we really, we don't really know how it will look, but we want to give our 5, 6, 7 principles out. So these principles guided us from the beginning. And I think you need to fill them with life, but I think they're really, really good for us, having been on this journey now for 5 years. I don't want to pick on all of them, but strong purpose, I think, is something really important. And I think it's something for a German engineering company which gets you need to be really well communicating that. But why should you be there in 3-4 years? What's the purpose that you have in life for being as an organization alive? I think that's a very important question. This new understanding of leadership, is it command and control? I mean, I'm speaking at a Teal around the world, so that's not it's an obvious answer to that question. But for a traditional German engineering company, I think it's very valid questions that we want to lead also differently with a positive attitude. You know, I come from a region in Germany where you usually say, if you don't complain, it's already enough praise for you, right? So I think it's really this positive mindset to really reach the potential of the humans that are working for us. And then when we look into this permanent cross-functional teams and flat hierarchies, that's where I also want to spend a bit on how our organization changed over the last couple of years. And I will go to that in a minute. Before going into that, I want to use another picture, which is also very important for me to highlight. Change, the traditional way is that change is always seen as a threat. And I think that's deep in our human emotions, human behavior. I think the other part is always that we see it also as an opportunity. And looking at the picture from the surfer, yes, it's probably sometimes upside down. But the goal here, at least in an organizational sense, is not only the survival, but also to have a success along the journey, right? It's also to have a bit of fun, to spend the hours in the day, not only trying to get it over with, but to really enjoy this ride along the way. Now, going a little bit deeper, I have just 2 more slides here into how our organization looks like. We are coming from BOSCH Power Tools, the 20,000 people. As we mentioned earlier, we're coming from a world with 6 business units. Now, all these acronyms probably don't sound like something to you, but they all have very different user needs that they serve. So as an example, HG stands for Home and Garden. It's our green tools that are usually developed for our DIYers, especially in Europe. So all the people that do it like me, partly on the weekend, partly not at all, who really need tools that really help them get the job done and have fun with it. But we also have accessories, the things that, you know, gets used on and you need to replace them. We have measuring tools, but we also have our blue ranges, which is BI and BE, that are really the professional tools. And these 6 business units, as you see on the timeline, we have transformed one by one, not all at once, in an iterative approach into 53 business teams. So we still have the bracket around as business units because they address very different business needs or user needs or regional aspects. But within these business units, now we have completely didn't leave one stone on the other how we organize them. So you see they have different sizes, but 53 business teams across the 6 business units. And if we go one level deeper, we actually transformed these business units from a traditional functional departmental setup. So this is an example of our home and garden business. To say you're a marketeer working in the marketing department or you're an engineer working in engineering department, now you're moved into a user-focused, user-applied business teams, cross-functional teams, where you have then not only different backgrounds in terms of skills and competences but they are not, but also really driving this business together forward to the user who actually needs something to be fixed or something to be cut, right? And this is actually one of the biggest changes we have done, because what that means is not only referring back to one of our principles, building permanent cross-functional teams, it's actually the new home base of these people. So that means if you're an engineer, you worked in a cross-functional project earlier on, where after each week in the status meeting, you went back from the project meeting back to your engineering home base and said, good Lord, these marketeers, they have no clue. They always have these nice slides. Or the other way around, the marketeer went back to his marketing department and said, these engineers drive me nuts because they just look at driving the motor another round. And I think we really want to bring them out of their silos and say, you know what, your new home base is these 3 engineer colleagues together with these 3 marketeers and 1 quality guy. And by the way, the guy who's leading that team, the business owner, has actually no experience in whatever you have been doing so far. And I think that's a big cultural change that we have seen there. It drove a lot of our thinking behind. And when you think about how did we come up with these solutions, it was actually not me. It was not one person. It was really a team of transition team from HG in that case, who said, you know what, we want to form around user applications. So I think that's one of the things I really want to highlight. And then, of course, last but not least, and then I'm really also very interested in having an open dialogue and go into details. I also want to highlight that it's not you open a door to paradise and everything is great. So we have some really good success stories now being on this journey since 5 years. As you see some examples on the left-hand side, I think we have been fortunate that our senior leadership team has been very supportive in that. So we have had a central project team which I was leading, which was directly linked to our CEO. But this was very, very small team because he basically said, you know what, you need to get the buy-in from the organization. You need to network with people in the organization to make a substantial change and not have a big project at the CEO and then everybody happy when those changes are coming. Which leads me to the second success. I think that we really appreciated a lot the co-creation process. And I think sounds easy, but that's actually the biggest change we have done in this transformation journey, because we didn't define the work packages upfront. We didn't define clear focus on where to spend the energy and the work packages. So I think that's really together with the people. And this also this honesty or humbleness to say we do it iteratively. We start small, we scale fast, but learn from it. Learn from it. We don't have the answer yet, but we enjoy the ride along the way. And on the right-hand side, you see a couple of course, things that are not working so well, still not. We still have we are not a greenfield approach, right? We are existing companies, so of course we need to break with old working styles. We have progressed a lot, but yeah, people tend to lean back on their old working styles. We have a lot of things. It takes time and it's a never-ending journey. I think that's something in a business context which is sometimes bringing you under a lot of pressure. Where the results, what is going on, when is your project finishing? And I think we really want to anchor that. And that's also why Rebecca said at the beginning, I'm now leading a team together with a colleague, what we call people and culture, where we really focus on embedding that transformational journey in our organization and really strengthening it as well. So I think this is more or less what I wanted to share with you. And I'm very happy to answer hopefully a lot of questions that are coming up, and I can go in any details that you wish.
Jochen, thank you so much for this, this story. We've got one question right now in our Mentimeter, and I'm going to go to that right now. The question is, were the principles or characteristics of your agile organization developed with the team or given top down by the leadership?
The principles that I showed, those 5, 6, 7, was actually developed with a very small team, but also very much supported from top down. They should be seen as kind of the guardrails, as wide as possible, but some guardrails. So you remember one of them have a flatter hierarchy. So we didn't want to create the illusion that you could also come up with proposals to have more hierarchy in the system. Or we also wanted to make sure that actually, yes, we want to have a different leadership style implemented and started that journey. So don't come with, we need more control in bigger groups. So I think these principles are very much influenced from the top, but I think they were very, very wide to give a lot of room for developing our own solution within.
Thank you. Do we have other questions? How about if we just put questions in chat? Perhaps we're having some problems with the multimeter.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rebecca, there's a bunch of questions in Mentimeter that I see.
Okay. So maybe I'm missing them. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll go to the highest one, the one that's got the most thumbs up, and the question is, does each business team have full capability, or are there support functions like HR, legal, that exist at a corporate level?
Very good question. Actually, we have not everybody who was formerly in a functional department assigned to business teams. So we still have what we call expertise function who serve the business teams in that respect. The tricky part is a bit, or the interesting part is, how do you come up with business teams? And I think I want to highlight the way how we approached it in each business unit. So the first question was not to say, to go to the functional departments and say, you know what, we have this idea of setting up cross-functional teams. How many people can you let go of your departments? Because then usually you would get a very small amount of people. Yeah, I can give you 10% or 15%. And I already know which ones, which might be not the right ones to staff these business teams. So we try to turn it the other way around to basically set, by default, everything is going into the business teams in each business unit. And now you need to find good arguments of things that need to pull out again. And that gave us a ratio of, it's a bit different from business unit to business unit, but you could say about 60, 70% of the people are in business teams and around 30, 40% are in what we call expertise functions. And they are very closely in the business units. And then we have a few, but also very important expertise functions that really cover the whole PT. And one of them, for example, is HR. And one of them is also, for example, the guys for the digital organization who really put the tools in the back end and so on and so forth, that they have the common base. And just to add one sentence, how did we differentiate if you're part of a business team or expertise team? I think whenever we made sure that people who serve actually all business teams better than only one, then it's a clear sign that you should be an expertise team. For example, the color coding of our tools. We don't want that business teams make a decision, this tool should be this yellow, this blue and this blue. It needs to be consistent for the user. So there is a marketing expertise who takes care of the brand coloring, for example. Yeah.
Jochen, what is the leader role at BOSCH?
I mean, I'm speaking at Teal around the world, and to be very honest, we are not a Teal organization in the pure sense, right? So we are still a hierarchical organization, but we reduce the hierarchies levels significantly. So for us, the leader, we're coming from a very traditional look at leaders, you know, people being assigned to leaders and leaders making decisions, to really have more people involved and people have a different change in how leaders should be. So they should be more the supportive coaching / empowering the people, and to really distribute certain aspects that usually have been with the leader all they are distributed. And on the other hand, also encourage our associates to really be in the driving seat to also change not only their daily work or what needs to be done, but also driving how they want to progress within the company.
Have you had leaders leave as a result of not deciding to stay with this transformation?
Perhaps I need to answer that in the following way, because that's a question I usually get asked a lot as well, is like, I mean, how did you approach it? How did you staff the positions? Was it a lot of insecurity in the Power Tools division? And the thing is, we tried to balance it out between giving security and safety to everybody in the organization who said, you know what, we are making a big change, but you have been of high value for the organization and you will play a big part in the future as well. However, if you want to become a leader in the future setup, or you want to have one of our new agile roles that we implemented, like product owner, agile master, you need to actually actively apply for that positions. So it's, and in that process, it was of course clear that not everybody wanted to do that. But on the other hand, it was also clear that just because you needed to apply doesn't mean you got rid of. We wanted just to have more the psychological aspect that if you want to be a leader in the future organization, you need to proactively apply. Because then after 6-7 months, you cannot say, well, you know, you put me there, I don't know my acronym, I don't know what to do. It's a proactive application. And yes, we lost some leaders, Rebecca, but the majority actually stayed. Some of them changed quite dramatically. And what is even more important, remember, we also wanted to attract new talent. I think we have a strong pull into the organization at the moment who really people want to work for BOSCH Power Tools, either from outside or from other divisions as well. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. We have a question that's popular here about the cross-functional teams. Is it a one-on-one relationship? That is one dedicated marketing person, for example, in each team? Or does one marketing person, is that marketing person a member of multiple teams?
Very good question, Mark. Actually, there is, I tried to answer that a little bit earlier, is like, if you are a member of a business team, you're only member of one business team. So if you're working in the grinding business team, then you're the marketing person for the grinding team. But if you would work for all business teams, for example, we have also battery systems, right, where we don't want to reinvent the wheel, or software that is used in the team, and you develop software for all of our tools, then you would work in an expertise team and serve the different business teams. Yeah. But you're only part of one team, either the expertise team and serving the business team, all business teams, or you're part of one business teams trying to fulfill that user need, like grinding, removing, cutting, or fixing. Yeah.
Got it. Another question, where did you fail?
we failed in many things, but we try to stand up again and try to fix it, because failure is kind of trying it out and realizing when it doesn't work. I think failing in the sense of that we thought we, how should I say, that it gets everything is getting quicker, you know, that we do this transformation quick and then we see the results quick. I think it takes time, especially when you focus also on a cultural change. I think that's one aspect. I think we also underestimated, how should I say, in an organization like this, what is the organizational part and what are the processes and procedures that are behind there. So I know my colleague Stephanie is also in the call. We have lived through that over the last 2 years quite intensively. For some in the organization, you can change the organization upside down, but what's not written in the books, in the Bible, is not lived, right? And I think we had a bit of a failure or naivety to say if the organization changes, then the processes will follow. But we really needed to proactively challenge also the processes, make them leaner and clearer and understandable, that now the organization and processes live side by side and not conquering each other.
In many organizations, corporate identity is really important to be consistent. How do you sync the functions like marketing across teams for things like corporate identity, brand consistency, and things like that?
There, I think it's very important to distinguish. If you speak about brand, I think we see that certain aspects, it's really important to have consistent brand images, especially when it goes to outside. So at the moment, it's one of our learnings as well, that we really want to make sure that those cross-functional business teams can rely on a very good brand team, you know, a team who's really sending out the message, this is a BOSCH tool, this is BOSCH. But on the other hand side, you need really marketing people that are very close to the tools, because only if you know the tools very well from a marketing perspective, you can sell them very good on the market. So I think it's not an or, it's kind of an and with different views on it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What kind of external support have you gotten, either from the parent organization or outside support from consultants or others?
I mean, from BOSCH, I think Central, yes, it's a huge company. It has many divisions. I think the beauty about BOSCH has helped us, for top of mind, two things. Yes, it's a big organization, but the divisions are so different in terms of what markets and products they develop. You mentioned the majority of our divisions are serving the car industry, for example. It's so different than from power tools that actually the divisions themselves are giving a lot of freedom on how they want to steer their business. So that's a very good thing. Then the second thing is, if you dig a bit deeper into the BOSCH history, it's actually a company that relies heavily on values that are very in sync with Teal or Agile or things, right? So we are not a public company. We are a private owned company by a foundation. So the profits go back into society to a major part as well. So I think there's a lot of base that we can really distill from also for telling our transformational journey. So it's not like we are this satellite who's doing all these crazy things and nobody else understands us. So I think we are kind of front runners, but I think we have really deeply rooted in the BOSCH history and in the BOSCH values.
Is the work that is a transformation that's been done in BOSCH power tools starting to be taken up in other parts of the BOSCH organization? I
think in such a big organization, you face very different challenges, right? Because the industries and the markets are so different. But I think what we see there is that these transformational questions are also coming up, of course, in our car areas, in our automotive areas. And I think there we have a very good exchange with those people, and we really can help them, and they can help us actually to bring up also new ideas for our business.
We have more questions about leaders, and this one in particular has been popular with the group. Do you have leaders that have talked the talk but did not walk the walk? If so, what happened?
Yes, we have them. It would be not the honesty to say we don't have them. And the question is a bit, where do you want to focus your attention on, right? I think what we see is that we are on a very good way that the majority of the leaders get it and also live differently. And the question, I always compare it, you know, if you're a teacher in a high school class and you have a very good feeling about the majority of your people, do you focus 100% of your energy and time on the one clown in the class who is trying to disturb the club? Or do you try to empower further the people that are actually want to contribute? And I think as long as you have good feeling, the majority is on the right way, I think it's very good time spent to go into those ones who need support to becoming even better in what we want to achieve as a positive leader, to achieve very good also performance for our company. But yes, we do have them, yeah.
You've spoken some about the culture of BOSCH, but could you describe the main cultural changes people recognize in the last years in BOSCH Power Tools, and what surprised you the most about this transformation?
I think that the culture that you see changed in most power tools is probably that the power distance in terms of communication has reduced a lot. You know, you come from a time, and I'm only 5 years with BOSCH, so probably other people can speak even better about it, where you basically, you go to your manager goes to his manager to go to the senior manager, and then the persons at the very top, they rely on what their direct reports tell them what's currently happening in the organization. And yes, you don't need to be an artist to realize that usually what gets up is only the good messages, and the real good things, you know, the problems are not arising. And I think it's fair to say that our senior management is now much closer to interaction with the direct associates. That's a big cultural change, because it changes the mind of the leaders and the mind of the associates, because they are encouraged to speak up, they are listened to. And I think it's also realizing that the leaders are actually more listening to their associates when looking for solutions, right? What surprised me the most is, I think that you really can create a movement without giving like this really clear guidance, but rather make them excited to join the journey with you. I think that's something I have not seen before, which I really like.
So what part did the country culture play in this transformation? How do you break the old working styles in a German organization?
Yeah, the tricky part is partly in your question. Yes, we are a German originated company, but we have like our associates, of course, around the globe. And I think we are also learned a lot, some the hard way, some the soft way, or some still learning, that actually a lot of our solutions that we try to tackle are already there at BOSCH Power Tools, but perhaps not at the headquarters and perhaps not in Germany, you know? So I think we need to really look at much more globally. So what are good ideas that we can use in Asia that help us in our transformational journey, that are existing, and you need to just scale it and not reinvent the wheel. So I think what we really emphasized a lot and try to do in our project is to say, it's not 5 German white men sitting in Stuttgart trying to come up with the best solution for BOSCH Power Tools. We had very good initiatives in Latin America looking at the leadership culture. We had very good examples in other regions where they say, you know, we have a very good idea on how to co-create together with new ideas in the teams. And it's more about making those things connect and try to scale them where possible, with taking these regional considerations into mind, right? So we don't need to steer it centrally to say it needs to be the same everywhere. We need to have these guardrails the same, but then trying to create room that they can learn from each other.
So just a simple question, how much of the team works virtually, given that you are a global organization, and how is that accommodated so that some of these ideas from other countries can easily be shared? How does that work for you all?
I mean, we started the journey 5 years ago. At that time, of course, there was no Corona, no COVID. So yes, there was a lot of flights for me and my team and for other people or joining us in Germany. We had very big sessions together with what we called our transformers, 2 days events. Now Corona hit us, and then like everybody, but then actually it was very interesting. We found very good ways to integrate also virtually together, because we had a very good basis of knowing each other, at least this network of transformation people. And now we have these sessions on a regular basis. We of course try to change the setup a little bit, because 2 days, full day in front of a screen is not value add. But I think we found a very good way to interact with the people and empower them. And to be very honest, I think there's no downside in it, except for the real human connection might be missing. But we have very good interactive sessions that also let those things try to not be too much importance.
That's good. And much less travel.
Yeah, exactly.
So an important question: what are the main challenges that you're still working on at the moment?
I think one part is that we, there's one setup part is like when you're set up as a project at the beginning, then the question is always when does it end? I think
Yes.
we have found an answer to that at the moment, because we have a clear mandate from our senior management that we have it now strengthened and anchored in our organization. So we have a group of people who is really driving these transformational topics forwards, and I'm one of them, but it's really great, right? So we kind of answered that one. Other challenges are really that this mindset shift is really taking a long time, and you need really endurance in that, right? And when I mean that, it's not only the leaders who need to learn to let go, but it's also the regular associates to learn to stand up. One example, career, right? So if I would ask 10 people in this room, or all the people who are in there, what's career for them, we would find many, many different answers. And that's totally fine for us, which might be new for a big organization, but we really want to get the people also what we call in the driver's seat. They need to think about what they want to do next. They need to think what careers means for them. And we need to give them the options that they can choose from. But it's not like sitting in the corner doing your job, and then hopefully the boss sees you and he speaks to you and he promotes you. It's kind of, you need to be making yourself aware of what you want to achieve. And that's very much linked also to learning this thing. No?
So Jochen, do you have several, have you had people move from teams to teams with some regularity, or is there any restriction on moving? Do you need to be in a team for at least 6 months or a year, or how has that worked?
I think that's not so different from previous times, to be very honest, because we had this principle in that we want to create permanent cross-functional teams. So it's not like you are assigned 6 months and then you're off to the next team. Mm-hmm. But of course, we see the same rotation, I would say, as before, that people want to change jobs, that people want to go do something different, and then we try to accommodate that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have a question here about having managers. Do you have managers within any of the teams, or how?
Yes,
okay.
We do have managers. So we have, how should I explain it? The business teams that I described earlier, those cross-functional teams, they have one leader, one business owner, as we call him. Uh-huh. And there's no sub-hierarchy below. So that's new. So we cut out hierarchy there. So those people report directly to this business owner, who's actually driving together with them the business. But as I said earlier, yes, we are still having leaders, managers in place, but I think we have less layers in order to say so. That's risen now.
And when you say less layers, are we talking, half as many layers, or 3 layers, or what? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think I cannot answer that for generally BOSCH Power Tools. The more interesting question here is a bit how much, I mean, layers always means setting in stone that only if you have people below you, you're important.
Yes.
And I think that's what we want to change. So the question should not be, are you important? And that's why you're a leader or manager. It's like, everybody can lead in certain ways, right? And it doesn't need to be, you have people reporting to you to be a leader. And I think that's why the question with the layers, on the one hand, tricky to answer, on the other hand, I think sometimes not the right question to answer, because we want to have definitely less people in terms of trying to get a big group of people reporting to them, but we want more people to really don't care if they have people assigned or not, but really want to lead.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question here that I'm not certain I'm clear on, but it is an important question, it appears, because it says, how do you live the home aspect of these teams? Are they co-located? And how do you align roles across teams? Is it in chapters or is, I'm sorry, this is not as familiar for me. No,
with co-location, I think it might go in the direction. Yes, if they're in the office or if they are there, they co-locate together. So if you have the fixing business team, all of those people sit together, no matter which background they have. So that's the co-location aspect. The part, of course, that needs to be kind of encouraged then is to have from different business teams, the different functional backgrounds connected. Not connected in terms of being a team, but exchanging what's the newest thing in engineering, what's the newest thing in marketing, because you need to have these chapter, guild, whatever you want to call them, connecting and talking to each other so that you can also remain the experts in your field. And I think that's where we encourage guilds or loose interactions of those people. And if they did, for example, we give the freedom to say, of course, we don't need to have rules for that. If those guilds decide we want to sit together on Thursday and Friday in the same area and not with our business teams, then do so. It's not like we try to invent rules for that.
I got it. Okay, great. One of the things you emphasized earlier in your presentation was getting very, very close to the customer. What techniques and approaches have you used to do that? Yeah. And how has that been supported by your new organizational approach?
I think that it's perhaps I can answer in two ways. The first way is when we did our transformation, we also implemented new roles. One of them, for example, is an agile master, as we call it. So he's the person who's taking care of the team development. You would call him probably a coach or so in a more general term, but a person who takes care of the team development. We also invented a new expertise for us, which what we call UX, so the user journey, user experience group. And they offer an experience to help those business teams start from scratch with very user-focused tools. So our focus is, imagine you only sell to retail and the retail sells to your end user. You'd sometimes have not the direct contact with the users. And I think for that, we really implemented processes, teams, and new roles to really go directly to the user to learn from him, but also to see what kind of pain points he has currently to solve, either with our tools or what kind of challenges he has in general to get his job done.
Got it. Got it. Last question here that I feel like you've answered, but we'll give you one more opportunity. How did you align different transformation work streams?
We had in each business unit, and from my slide earlier, you saw it's like 6 business units. We had in each business unit what we call a transition team. So a group of people, of volunteers in the business unit to say, I want to work on this. Those 5 pillars, leadership, organization, they are really interesting for me. I want to change how we do work together. And then these transition teams decided on where they want to focus on, right? Do we have more a leadership aspect problem? Do we have more an organizational setup question? And then the teams actually worked on those ones. We also have regular, what we call culture days. So where we ask our people along these 5 dimensions questions, and they can rate where they see the biggest need for further work. And that's basically fills up the backlog of those transition teams or the people in the business units to tackle the next problems. So I think that's hopefully answers the question, you know.
Excellent, excellent. It appears that we are complete in questions, and I'm going to look just once more in chat to see if there is anything more. It looks like, Jochen, you have really touched on everything. I'm going to post in chat all of the spatial chat link. And if everyone would like to move over to spatial chat, we could do so. And we could also make certain that you go to Garden Room 3 if you want to continue this conversation. We'd love to do so for another 20 minutes or so if anyone is interested. Jochen, lots of compliments from the group in chat for you.
Thanks. I will move then also to the spatial chat. See you there.